Lesson 8. To begin Lesson 8, I want to check your assignment from our last lesson where you had to find the complements following the verbs in the 10 sentences. So turn to that and let's go over it. As I said before, you've already found the verb and the subjects, and now we're looking for complements. And as we saw in sentence number 2, not every sentence would have a complement. And again, you had to be aware of prepositional phrases. So let's pick up with number 3. The verb is became. Became is a linking verb. Macedonians is the subject. So what is the complement that follows became? Christians. Christians is the noun that's identifying Macedonians. Christians is a predicate nominative, a PN. Number 4. In number 4, we have compound parts. Left, fled are the verbs. So let's take a look at the first verb, left. Left whom or what? Roam. Roam is a direct object following the action verb left. Fled whom or what? There is no complement. We have a prepositional phrase, but no complement. Number 5. In number 5, it's an interrogative sentence. It's a question. And the verb is have seen. Whom or what? Fields. Be careful. I know tulip sounds like a noun, but tulip is acting as an adjective. Fields is the direct object following the verb have seen. So D-O for fields. Number 6. The verb form. Ridges, trenches, form. Whom or what? Ranges. Ranges is a direct object following the action verb form. Number 7. Consider. Historians consider. Whom or what? Hippocrates. Hippocrates is the direct object. Now we have that special verb, consider. Consider Hippocrates to be father. Father is the objective complement, the OC. So Hippocrates is the DO, the direct object. Father is the OC, objective complement. And again, you have a prepositional phrase there, and complements are never found in a prepositional phrase. Those 3 words make sense together. Historians, consider, Hippocrates, father. Number 8. Were is a linking verb. Colors were. Well, we either need a predicate nominative, a noun naming the subject, or a predicate adjective, something that's describing the subject. Were somber. Somber is an adjective describing the subject, colors. So somber is a PA. Number 9. We is the subject, could find whom or what. What? Way. Way is a direct object. Number 10. Raised, sold. Boy, raised, sold. Whom or what? Vegetables. Vegetables is a direct object. Those sentences are just examples of subjects, verbs, and complements. You'll notice some sentences didn't have a complement. Many of the sentences had action verbs. Many of the sentences have direct objects. Keep that assignment to one side because at the end of this lesson, I'm going to assign where you are going to go back and you are going to diagram some of the basic parts. Now, I'm not going to give you all the sentences. We're just going to diagram a few so that you have an opportunity to diagram just some of those basic patterns that we've looked at from your handout. Now, also, in this lesson 8, we're going to be taking a look at another sentence part. We looked at complements. Now we're going to take a look at another sentence part, and it's called verbal. We are going to take a look at verbals in particular. because there are actually 3 kinds of verbals. It depends upon the use in the sentence. Now, as you can see by the word, the heart of that word is verb. So a verbal is a verb form. Now, since it is a verb form, it's acting as another part of speech. A verbal is not the main verb in a sentence. It is not the heart of the sentence. Verbals are added extras, and they are verb forms, but they're used as another part of speech. Now, verbals can be used as nouns. Verbals can be used as adjectives. And some verbals can be used as an adverb. So those are the parts of speech that this verb form functions as. So it's a verb form, but it's not the main verb. And it's used as a noun, an adjective, or it can be used as an adverb. And as I said before, there are 3 kinds of verbals. The first one that we're going to take a look at is the one that's an adjective, and we call it a verbal adjective. So it's a verb form, but it's used as an adjective, and it has a name, and it's called a participle. You'll see that in your handout. So a participle is a verb form, and a participle is known as a verbal adjective. Now, there are 2 kinds of participles, and it depends upon the ending of the verbal adjective, what kind of participle it is. All right, the first one is the present participle. Now, a present participle has the suffix ending of ing. For example, praying. All right? So a present participle is a verb form ending in an ing. And if this present participle is used as a modifier, an adjective, it could be modifying a noun. Then it's a verbal adjective. It's called a participle. Now, the other one is the past participle. Now, past participles, it all depends on the verbs, because in our English language we have so many irregular verbs, but some of the endings of a past participle are, you have ed, you can have just d, where they're adding the ending, you can have en, you can have t, let's see, what other ones are there? I think that's it for the possible endings for a past participle. For example, prayed. Prayed is a past participle. It has an ed ending, and if it's used as an adjective, then it's called a verbal adjective. All right, so those are the 2 kinds of participles, but when the verbal adjective is modifying a noun, then we call it a verbal. All right, and it's a participle. Let's take a look at some examples of verb forms ending in either ing or one of the past forms, and it's used as an adjective. It's not the main verb of the sentence. Let's take a look at some sentences where we can find a verbal adjective, the participle. It's a verb form, but it's not the main verb of the sentence. So when we are taking apart the sentence and looking at the basic parts, we need to find them first and see what is left to help us find the participle. So as our usual pattern is, let's find the verb and its subject and any complements. Number 1, the rushing water made me dizzy. What is the main verb in the sentence? The heart of the sentence, made. Who or what made? Water. Water made whom or what? Me. Me is a direct object. There's that verb, it means to make or consider, made me dizzy. Do you remember what dizzy is called? What type of complement? Because it follows the direct object. Objective complement. All right, now that we have the main verb and its parts, let's go back and find other verb forms that are acting as an adjective. Here we have an ing verb form, rushing. What is rushing describing? What is it adding emphasis to and making it more colorful in the sentence? Water. Rushing is a verbal adjective and it's modifying water. It's a verb form, but it's not the main verb. It's acting as an adjective. And the is also an adjective. Number 2, this worn Bible was grandmother's greatest or dearest possession. What's the main verb in a sentence? Was. Was is linking. Who or what was? Bible is the subject. Since it's a linking verb, it's going to be followed by either a predicate nominative, a noun, or a predicate adjective. What is it going to be? Bible was possession. Possession is a predicate nominative. It's a predicate noun. And it's identifying Bible. Grandmother's is possessive. It's describing possession. It's an adjective. Dearest is also an adjective modifying possession. So the basic sentence parts, Bible was possession. Now, let's go back and take a look at some verb forms that are acting as adjectives. The participle. What is the participle that's modifying? Well, worn is the participle. Answering what kind of Bible? Worn Bible. And this is a past participle, but it's acting as an adjective. And back in number 1, this is a present participle, acting as an adjective, modifying water. All right, number 3. The view of the peaceful valley soothed the exhausted travelers. What is the main verb in the sentence? Soothed, the action. Who or what soothed? Well, be careful, we've got a prepositional phrase. The subject is never found in a prepositional phrase. We have view. View soothed. Whom or what? Travelers. Travelers is your direct object following the action verb soothed. Now, let's go back and find a verb form, a participle that's acting as an adjective, a verbal adjective. Exhausted. Exhausted is a past participle. And exhausted is modifying travelers. What kind of travelers? Exhausted. And it's an adjective, a verbal adjective. Notice in these sentences, they can either be a present participle, ing, or a past participle. And often, when a participle is acting as an adjective, a verbal adjective, it will precede the noun it's describing. All right? Notice in these examples, it can be modifying a subject, or it can even modify a direct object. The last one. Number 4, the barking dog startled the grazing sheep. What is the action in the sentence? If you take it out, you don't have a sentence. What verb is the heart of the sentence? Startled. Action verb. Who or what startled? Dog. Dog is the subject. Dog startled who or what? Sheep. Sheep is the direct object. All right, let's go back and find adjectives, verbal adjectives. And you'll see in this particular sentence, we have two. One modifying the subject and one modifying the direct object. What kind of dog? Barking dog. We have a present participle acting as an adjective, and it's describing dog. Grazing sheep. What kind of sheep? Grazing. Again, we have a present participle because it ends in ing, and it's acting as an adjective. Modifying sheep. So verbals. Verbals are verb forms, but they are used as another part of speech. The participle is a verb form, but it's used as a verbal adjective. A verb form can be present participle or the past participle, but it's still acting as an adjective. And they modify nouns and maybe even could modify a pronoun, but usually nouns. All right, so that's our first verbal, the participle. Let's continue on and take a look at another verbal. As I said, there are three kinds. The participle is our first kind. The next kind of verbal is what we call a gerund. Now, a gerund is a verb form, and it acts as a noun, and only a noun. Just like a participle, only acts as an adjective, and it modifies nouns. A gerund is a verb form that functions as a noun. And we call it the verbal noun. Now, for gerunds, gerunds only have one ending. Gerunds always end in ing. Singing, praying, working. Ing, verb form that functions as a noun. Not the main verb, but functions as a noun. Now, that really opens the door. Since a gerund is a verbal noun and it functions as a noun, just think of all the parts of a sentence it can be. Therefore, it can be the subject of a sentence. It can be the direct object of a sentence. It can be object of the preposition. And it also can be in a positive. Now, we haven't touched too much on a positive just yet, but we will in a future lesson. So those are what gerunds can be. It's a verb form ending in ing, and since it's a verbal noun, it can be the subject, a direct object, it can be object of a preposition, and it can also act as an appositive. Now, an appositive is just a noun that identifies another noun. But as I said before, we'll get into appositives a little later on. So let's take a look at some sentence examples that show us a gerund and how it functions within the sentence. Let's take a look at finding some gerunds in the sentences that are on the whiteboard. And as before, let's find the main verb of the sentence because gerunds are not the main verb. Remember, gerund is a verb form, it acts as a noun, and it always ends in ing. So you have to be careful when you are finding the main verb in a gerund. Number one, jogging is a popular exercise. The main verb is the linking verb is. All right, what is jogging? Jogging is a verb form ending in ing. It is a gerund. It's a noun. It's acting as the subject of the sentence. So here we have our gerund, and it's acting as, it is a noun. And let's just change that. You know, a gerund is a verbal noun, so let's write subject. Jogging is a popular exercise. Linking verb is We know it's followed either by a predicate nominative or a predicate adjective. This one's followed by a predicate noun, predicate nominative. Exercise, jogging are the same. It's identifying it. Gerund, verb form, verbal noun, acting as the subject. Number 2, our pastor enjoys preaching. What's the main verb? What's the heart of the sentence? What's the action of the sentence? Enjoys. Who or what enjoys? Pastor. Pastor enjoys what? Preaching. Preaching is our verbal noun. Preaching is a gerund. It's following an action verb. Since it's a verbal noun, it's acting as the direct object. So here we have gerund, and it's acting as the direct object in the sentence. Number 3, her favorite hobby is knitting. What's the main verb? Is. Who or what is? Hobby. Hobby is the subject. Now, we have a linking verb, therefore we know it's followed either by a noun or adjective. Hobby is knitting. Knitting is a gerund, it's a verbal noun, and it's used as a predicate nominative. It's identifying hobby. Hobby is knitting. Number 4, do you have enthusiasm for singing? I need to fix my end punctuation. I have a question, an interrogative statement, so I need to end it in a question mark. Do you have enthusiasm for singing? Well, we have a question, so we know things are out of order, but let's find the main verb. What's the heart of the sentence? Do, have. What is the subject? Who or what do have? You. All right. Do you have whom or what? Enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is a direct object. Now, notice what follows enthusiasm. For singing, we have an ing verb form. It's acting as a verbal noun. Notice what comes before it. We have the preposition for. We have a prepositional phrase for singing. And the object of the prepositional phrase is the verbal noun singing. Gerund. This time it's object of the preposition. All right, number 5. The pharmacist's job, filling prescriptions, demands accuracy and alertness. What is the main verb? What's the action of the sentence? Demands. Who or what demands? Well, job. Be careful of pharmacist. Pharmacist has an apostrophe S. That means it's possessive, and when it's possessive, it's acting as an adjective. All right, whose job? Pharmacist's job. Job is the noun, job is the subject. Job demands. Demands whom or what? We have a compound direct object. Accuracy is a noun, direct object. We have our conjunction and. Alertness is another noun, direct object. We have a compound direct object. Now, let's find the ing part. Notice that it's set off by commas. I gave you an example of an appositive phrase. Now, an appositive, if you remember, I mentioned that it identifies another noun or a pronoun. It doesn't describe, it just identifies it. Now, one thing with an appositive, you can take an appositive out of a sentence and still have a complete thought. When you have an appositive phrase, most often it is separated by commas, the punctuation. And when we get into punctuation later on in grammar, you'll see the uses of commas. and other proper punctuation, but it will set off an appositive phrase. And as I said, we'll look at appositive phrases in another lesson. I can take it out. The pharmacist's job demands accuracy and alertness. And I still have a complete thought. This appositive, filling, which is the gerund, filling prescriptions, works together as a phrase. But the gerund is an appositive. It is a noun, filling prescriptions. So we do have a gerund, and it's functioning as an appositive. It's identifying job, filling prescriptions. All right, so a gerund is a verb form. It always ends in ing. And it's important to find the verb and the subject, and then look for other ing verbs. And again, notice the location, because it can act as a subject. It can act as a direct object. It can act as the object of a preposition, and then also as an appositive. So you have to look at the location. Notice in number 1, it's at the beginning, it comes before the verb. It answers who or what before the verb, so the gerund is acting as a subject. In number 2, this one is following the action verb. It answers the question what after the action verb, so therefore it's acting as a direct object, the verbal noun. In number 3, notice the location. It's following a linking verb. What follows linking verbs? Predicate nouns, predicate nominatives. Therefore, the ing gerund is acting as a predicate noun, a predicate nominative. Number 4, notice what it follows. Notice where it is in the sentence. It's preceded by a preposition. Therefore, this gerund is acting as an object of the preposition. And then number 5, an appositive either precedes or immediately follows the noun it's identifying. And in this case, filling is following the noun it's identifying. And as I said before, it's set off by commas, and that does help you spot it as well. All right, so the verbal gerund is a verbal noun. That's the second one. The first one was the participle, verbal adjective, describes. The second one, the gerund, verbal noun, always ends in ing, and can be one of these in a sentence. You have to look at its location and identify how it's being used. Let's take a look at our third verbal, and it's called the infinitive. Now, the infinitive is easy to spot because it is a verb form, but it's preceded by the word to. All right? So it's to plus a verb. For example, to sing, to pray, to work, to, can't think of any verbs all of a sudden, to take, to learn, to acknowledge. So an infinitive is to plus a verb. Now, the tricky part about an infinitive is it can be all three of these. An infinitive can act as a noun, an infinitive can act as an adjective, and an infinitive can act as an adverb. So even though it's easy to spot, it's to plus a verb, identifying the purpose in the sentence, how it's functioning, that is a little more challenging. You really have to pick the sentence apart and discern how it's being used. So it's an infinitive, and it can be used as a noun, as an adjective, as an adverb, or as an adverb. So the infinitive, a modifier or a noun, but it's always preceded by the word to. So we'll take a look at some sentences, and we'll easily to spot the infinitive, but we really have to take the sentence apart to see how it's used. Another verbal noun as well as a verbal adjective. Let's look at some sentences on the chalkboard. We are going to find infinitives, and then we're going to see how they are used in the sentence to identify their function. Remember, an infinitive is used as a noun, an adjective, or an adverb. Now, as I said before, they're easy to spot. So in the sentences, let's first find the verb and the subject like we always do, and then we'll find the infinitives. Number one, what is the main verb, the main action of the sentence? To swim well takes practice. Takes is your verb, all right? Who or what takes? Well, to swim well takes practice. Here we have the infinitive right here, and it's at the beginning of the sentence. It's followed by an action verb. To swim is being used as a noun, and it's being used as the subject of the sentence. So here we have the infinitive, to swim. It's being used as a noun, and it's being used as the subject of the sentence. And let's continue on. To swim well takes whom or what? Practice. We have a direct object. Number two, his desire was to learn. What is the main verb? Remember, infinitives are not the main verb. They're used as another part of speech. The main verb is the linking verb was. Who or what was? Well, desire. Desire is the verb. Since we have a linking verb, we know it's followed by a predicate nominative or a predicate adjective. Remember, it will identify or describe the subject. Desire, to learn. To learn is the infinitive. It's following the linking verb, and it's naming, therefore it's a noun. So it's an infinitive acting as a predicate nominative. In that example, it's identifying desire. Desire to learn, same thing. So it's a noun. Number three, the men set their minds to work. What is the main verb? Set. Who or what set? Men. Subject. Men set what? What's the direct object? Minds. Now we have the infinitive, to work. Set minds work. Well, it's not naming, it's describing. What kind of minds? To work. To work is being used as an adjective. It's describing the noun minds because it answers the question, what kind? What kind of minds to work? Notice when the infinitive is acting as an adjective, it follows the noun. Number four, Kelsey likes to listen to opera. What is the main verb, main action? Likes. Who or what likes? Kelsey. Kelsey likes is action. Kelsey likes what? To listen. Since it answers what, it's being used as a noun, and this infinitive is being used as a direct object. Kelsey likes to listen, and then to opera is a prepositional phrase working with it. And number five, he studied to show himself approved unto God. What is the main action, the main verb, the heart of the sentence? Studied. Who or what studied? He. He studied whom or what? To show? No. He studied why? To show. There's a reason. It answers the question why. Therefore, it's used as, well, what part of speech answers how, when, where, why? The adverb. In this example, it's being used as an adverb. It's answering why. And it's answering why about the verb studied. Now, himself approved unto God, we have another verbal We have approved, which is a participle, and the participle is modifying the pronoun himself. But we're concentrating on infinitives right now, but approved is another verbal, and it is a participle acting as an adjective. Notice when it is acting as an adverb, it followed the verb it's describing. That is the part that can be tricky. When you have an infinitive that follows a verb, you have to discern and see what makes sense. Is it acting as an adverb or is it acting as a direct object? All right? When it's a linking verb, then it's not as difficult. It's the action verbs you have to be careful. Likes, what, to listen. That makes sense. Studied what? To show? No. Studied why? To show. Therefore, it's an adverb. So it'll be the action verbs followed by an infinitive that probably will be the trickiest. And number 6, he gave me advice about how to begin the project. What is the main verb, the main action? Gave. Who or what gave? He. He gave what? Advice. He gave to whom or for whom? Me. Indirect object. All right, now let's continue on. We've got the basic sentence parts, so the rest is added extra. We could stop the sentence right here. He gave me advice, and it makes a complete thought. So we've got the basic parts. So what is left is added extra. Now, let's take a look at the infinitive. What is the infinitive? Well, the infinitive is to begin. What comes before it? Well, how is an adverb. What comes before that? About. If you take a look at your list of prepositions, you'll see that about is being used as a preposition. About how to begin. About how to begin, in this one, it's an object of the preposition. Object of the preposition. Now, I know you're probably thinking, let's label preposition. What about all those extra words in there? They have their place and they have their part within this prepositional phrase. But that's something that we're going to continue on with in the next lesson. When we look at phrases, then this will all come together. But this is a whole unit, and it's working together as a prepositional phrase. But within that unit, we have our preposition, and we have the object of the preposition, to begin. So it's used as object of the preposition. Infinitives, to plus a verb form. They can be used as a noun, therefore they can be the subject, the direct object, the predicate nominative, the object of the preposition, and they could even be used as an appositive. I just didn't do an example today of an appositive. They also can be used as modifiers. They can be used as an adjective. They'll follow the noun they describe. They also can be used as an adverb, and they'll follow the verb when they're describing the verb. So infinitives, a little easy to find because it's to plus a verb form, but you really have to pick the sentence apart to see how they're used in the sentence. Let's continue on and we'll review the verbal. Remember, there are 3 kinds. They are a verb form. They can be used as nouns, adjectives, and adverbs. The participle, you have the present participle that ends in ing, or ed, or d, and it's always used as an adjective. The participle is a verbal adjective. You have the gerund. The gerund is a verbal noun, always used as a noun. Always ends in ing. It's a constant, always ends in ing. The gerund can be used as a subject, direct object, predicate nominative, object of the preposition, and an appositive. And then lastly, we have the infinitive. And the infinitive is to plus a verb. And it can be used as a noun. Subject, direct object, predicate, nominative, object of the preposition. It can be used as an adjective where it describes a noun, or it can be used as an adverb describing a verb. So those are verbals. Verbals are verb forms. They are a sentence part. They are not a part of basically the baseline unless they're used as a noun. And then they can be a part of the basic pattern. Mostly the verbals, when they're an adjective or an adverb, make the sentence interesting, and they add maybe some color to it or just some description to make the sentence more interesting. So those are verbals. We're going to take a look at 3 more sentences, and I'm going to put a verbal in each one, and we're going to find the verbal, and we're going to discern how that verbal is being used. Let's take a look at 3 more sentences, just to review the verbals: participles, gerunds, and infinitives. Number 1, Joseph took Jesus to Egypt to escape Herod's wrath. What's the main verb? Always look for the main verb in the subject. Find your basic sentence parts, and that will help you find the verbal and discern how it's being used. Main verb, took. Who or what took? Joseph. Joseph took whom? Jesus. Thinking of baby Jesus. We have to Egypt, which is a prepositional phrase, and then we have to escape. To escape is our infinitive. We have to plus a verb form. Now, we know it's not the subject, we know it's not the direct object, so we need to, by process of eliminate, see how it's used. We know it's not an objective complement, so therefore it must be used as a modifier. And since it's following the action verb, let's see what question it answers. Took Joseph to Egypt. Why? To escape. The infinitive to escape is acting as an adverb. And even though it doesn't immediately follow the verb, it is modifying the verb took. Joseph took why? To escape Herod's wrath. Number 2, a prating fool shall fall. That's taken from Proverbs 10 and verse 8. What's the main verb? It's a short sentence. Shall fall. Who or what shall fall? Fool. What kind of fool? Prating fool. Prating is an ing participle. It's a present participle, and it's modifying fool, saying what kind of fool, or answering the question, what kind of fool. So here we have a participle, and it's the present participle, acting as an adjective. Number 3, you can greatly help missionaries by praying for them. What is the main action, the main verb of the sentence? Well, we have a helping verb, can. We have the main verb, help. We have an adverb right in the middle of it, modifying the verb. Who or what can help? You. You can help whom or what? Missionaries. We have a direct object. By praying for them. Here we have an ing verb form. Well, gerunds end in ing, participles end in ing, but take a look at what precedes praying. We have a preposition, by praying. We have a prepositional phrase. Therefore, praying is being used as the object of the preposition. Therefore, this is a gerund. And it's object of the preposition. By praying. So those are our 3 main verbals. We have the infinitive, which is to, plus a verb form. It can be a noun, or it can be a modifier, an adjective or an adverb. See how it's used, see its location in the sentence. We also have the gerund, which is our verbal noun. Always ends in ing. We have the participle. And it's our verbal adjective. And it can end in ing being the present participle, or ed, or d. Verbals, not the main verb in the sentence. They're used as another part of speech. A noun, an adjective, or an adverb. The three kinds, we have gerund, participle, and infinitive. We'll continue on looking at verbals some more. When we take a look at phrases, we're going to take a look at prepositional phrases, we're going to take a look at verbal phrases, because you can see by the examples on the chalkboard that sometimes verbals don't work by themselves. They have other words working with them. For example, to escape Herod's wrath, that's a unit. We call that a phrase. Another example, by praying for them, that's a unit working as a phrase. And we're going to be taking a look at phrases in the next lesson. And then another one, maybe that was the only one. Yes, it was. So, verbals. We'll look at them again. We'll take a look at how they work together with other words to form a verbal phrase. Just a reminder, for your assignment, you're going back to your subject and verb sentences, and you are labeling direct objects, indirect objects, object of complements, predicate nominatives, and any predicate adjectives. We did that, and now your new assignment is to diagram some of these sentences. So take your paper. We're not going to diagram all of them. We're just going to diagram some of them that have the basic sentence patterns: subject, verb, and complement. Let's see. Let's do sentence number 3. You can circle that one. Let's do sentence number 5. Remember, it's a question, but you still diagram it the same way with your subjects and your verbs. You can refer to your handout that shows the basic sentence patterns now that you've already got them labeled. And now that we already have found all those parts. Let's see, number 6 is good because that gives you an opportunity to do a compound subject and its modifiers. And number 7 is also good. So we've got numbers 3, 5, 6, 7. Let's also do number 8. As well as number 10. Number 10 will give you an opportunity to diagram a compound verb with those 2 levels. So let me just repeat. We are diagramming our sentences that we've been working on from 2 other assignments. So number 3, you're going to diagram the Macedonians became the first European Christians. Number 5, have you ever seen the tulip fields of Holland in the spring? Number 6, great bridges and trenches on the ocean floor form vast ranges of hidden mountains. Number 7, historians consider Hippocrates the father of modern medicine. Number 8, the colors of the painting were unusually somber. And then number 10, the young boy raised and sold vegetables. No, let's not diagram number 10. I'm going to take that one off the assignment. And that is because we haven't looked at how to diagram the direct object when both the verbs, compound verbs, have the same direct object. We haven't done that pattern, so we won't do number 10. We will just do 5 sentences, numbers 3, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And that'll give you practice. Remember, you're diagramming the subject, the verb, and any complements. Direct object, indirect object, objective complement, And the modifiers, any adjectives or adverbs. Remember, slanting line underneath the verb or the noun. So that will be your assignment. Also, I want you to study your lessons, numbers 1 through 7, because there is going to be a quiz coming up. I want to give you a quiz on the parts of speech and on the sentence parts. So it won't include verbals just yet, but on lessons 1 to 7. So study your notes and be familiar with the material, the definitions, the functions, and you'll be having a quiz on those lessons.